Tyler here for Run Route Recon KC, and we are going to get right into it because we got a long video today. Today we're covering the 2022 Gobbler grind, each the marathon, half, 10K, and 5, all 4 races here. So here we have kind of a quick preview of each of the 4 routes with their respective profiles, and one of the things you will notice is that for the half and full routes in particular, you have a steady incline in altitude until the turnaround, and then a steady decline all the way to the finish. We'll get to those in a second. Also, a quick disclaimer, of course, each of these routes are put together according to the route maps posted to the official race website. So things may change. Starting off here on Indian Creek Parkway inside Corporate Woods, if you've ever done a 5K or even a 10K inside of Corporate Woods, this is going to seem very, very familiar because pretty much everybody uses the same 5K, 10K route inside Corporate Woods. And of course, the 10K routes are just 2 laps of the 5K route. So 5K and 10K, I'm only going to show you guys 1 lap of the 5K route in here. 10Ks, you're going to do a second lap. Half marathons and marathons, you're also going to do a second lap. On the first climb of all the routes here, this is up Farley Road, I believe. It is a half-mile climb. Pretty shallow, but it is a little bit long. Kind of puts a little bit of sting in the legs, especially for those doing a second lap. Tops out right about here, and then you get a little bit of a decline before you hit Maston Street in front of the 2 buildings, these 2 west side buildings inside Corporate Woods. Maston is a flat, which is nice, and then you get a little bit of decline onto the next road, and this is our first time inside the route that we're doing a little bit of a U-turn. Of course, in my infinite wisdom, I did not catch the next clip, so I'm going to show you kind of what it looks like. This is Maston / 109th Street. Right at that turnaround rather, you do get your first mile marker for all distances. A turn right off of West 109th Street onto Indian Creek Parkway, this time heading south, and we are coming up on another U-turn just up ahead. Longer stretch of Indian Creek Parkway here, so we're going to skip ahead a little bit as we turn off of Indian Creek Parkway onto Grandview Drive. You can see up ahead I was lucky enough to catch some of the KC Endurance folks out doing laps on this 5K route and a little bit of the trail as well. They were going much, much faster than I was, obviously. Now this section of Grandview Drive looks flat here, but it's actually not. It's a little bit of a false flat. We actually are going just a touch up in elevation. It flattens out a little bit more on 108th, but then you get kind of a big bump here. Short, but it's a little bit steeper than you think, especially later on in the lap, and then especially later on in the second lap. It puts a little bit of sting in the legs. Here on Benson, also a little bit of an incline. And then we are taking a U-turn on Benson back northbound, which of course means we get a little bit of a decline here as well too. The turn on to Indian Creek Parkway is technically our finishing straight, and if you've done this 5K route before, you know that the finish line is typically on this finishing straight, and even has been for Gobbler grind in the past. That is not the case here. For even the 5Ks, everybody is going to turn off onto Indian Creek Trail when they are finishing up their first lap for the 5K, second lap for the 10K half and full. So if you are a 10K, half or full marathon runner, stay on for a second loop, and then you can turn off on Indian Creek Parkway. For 5Kers, 1 lap, and you are turning off onto Indian Creek Trail. The 5K and the 10K finishers are going to turn left into the finishing chute, and this is what it kind of looks like. If you are a half marathon or a full marathon participant, you're going to stay on the trail, not turn left, for an out and back course along Indian Creek Trail. Time spent on the majority of the Indian Creek Trail is going to be pretty flat. Something also to keep in mind that you don't really typically think about with these trails is how lumpy it actually is. Not necessarily in elevation gains and losses, but anytime you have trees that are kind of lining the trail, and then you have a whole bunch of kind of shaded and sun areas, and so the trail is always warming up and cooling down, then you're going to get a whole bunch of these essentially what amount to speed bumps. This part of the trail, this northernmost part of Indian Creek Trail, has a bunch of that, and so be very careful when you're taking steps. You might end up tripping if you're really not paying attention. It's not awful, but if you're really not paying attention, it will get you, so just be careful out there. There are a couple places on the trail where you're not actually going to stay on the trail, and this is one of the first examples. There is a loop that goes around the soccer fields and kind of these open baseball fields at Indian Valley Elementary. You are going to take a left onto that loop, and then once you reach the end of the loop, you're going to take another left to get right back onto Indian Creek Trail. There will be cones set up to kind of keep you on the trail, and I believe even an aid station with some volunteers to guide you here. Another turn on the trail to kind of keep prepped for. This is up and over Schweitzer Road. You're not really taking any turns here, you're still staying on the trail. Just make sure that you turn left after the bridge, because I have seen individuals continue straight onto the sidewalk and make it all the way to college before they figure out what the hell happened. This bridge coming up is the bridge for Quivira Road right at about 119th Street, and this is going to be Half Marathon's marker to get ready to turn around. The turnaround for Half Marathon is right about here, and full marathoners are going to continue on. We do show bits and pieces of the return course a little bit later on. If you want to skip ahead to 1812 in this video, you'll see the rest of the course as the full marathon meets back up with the half marathon at the split. And with that, we have a couple of long stretches of trail, so just enjoy the scenery. This is going to be one of the only real turnoffs from the trail. Take a left here, heading south on another outback sort of spur in the trail for about 2 miles or so. This is also going to present to the runners your only really big hill other than that half mile inside of Corporate Woods. This one's going to be just as steep as the one in Corporate Woods, but over a mile long, all the way up to the turnaround on this out and back section. No real name to this hill, so I'm calling it Eastbrook to 133rd because it goes from Eastbrook Park to 133rd Street. Begins right at that little bridge and it continues 1 mile up, maximum gradient of about 3.5%, an average of just over 2. As soon as you hit the flat spot on the top of the hill, you're going to hit your turnaround and you're going to head right back down the spur in the trail back to Indian Creek Parkway, and instead of coming back the way you came, now you're going to turn left and continue on Indian Creek Parkway until you hit the marathon turnaround at Mid-America Nazarene University. Another crossover bridge at 127th Street. This one's a little bit different. I don't remember there being as many aid volunteers at these corners, though there were cones from my memory from years past, so it should help you keep on the trail. Just make sure you do stay on the trail rather than taking any sort of sidewalks. You will get lost if you do that. We are now entering the campus of Mid-American Nazarene University. Be sure to turn left at the stop sign. Again, you'll have volunteers or cones pointing the way for you and keeping you on trail. Turnaround is just up ahead. You will have cones for this one, obviously. And as soon as you hit the turnaround, really it's a straight route all the way back to Corporate Woods. This time not taking the spur that you took up that big mile hill, thank goodness. And for this trip back, I don't record every moment of the trail like we did on the outbound since we're kind of already familiar with the surroundings. So a few cutouts here. Just enjoy the scenery and I'll see you back in Corporate Woods.